This is my finished alien. I used the reference images behind to model it. And here it is once it's fully done. I'm not a fan of the legs and feet that much. If I had the chance, I'd probably go back and redo them because I think it looks a bit knobbly, but other than that, I'm really happy with the design. Here I started to sculpt my alien in ZBrush. I began without using symmetry, which I found quite hard because I couldn't get it symmetrical. But once it was turned on, it was much easier to use. Here I'm just trying to design the chest. I'm looking at reference images to get the angles and the right area. Now I'm going in with the collarbone and doing a little bit on the shoulders, not too much, just enough so I can see the difference against the chest. Now I believe I did lose this version of my alien, so in a minute it's going to cut to a new one here. Um, I was so much happier with this one. I spent longer focusing on the rib cage above the torso, and now I'm going in with the abdominal area. And just adding extra layers on it just to give it that definition. I'm using clay tubes to add it and Dam Standard to remove some and add some definitions so that the muscles are like popping out more almost. So here I'm starting to work on the side of the body and the hips. And now I'm focusing on the back. I'm really trying to get the muscle definition in. So I'm using the mask tool where I can to stop the tools from affecting areas that I didn't want them to. So I'm going in again, adding detail. Now I'm trying to use the inflate tool to just add a little bit more shape to the back of my character. Now I'm starting to make my way up towards the neck and the shoulders. I'm just adding a bit more definition to the back. Now here I use the move tool, which I haven't used yet, just to give my alien a bit of an Adam's apple. I also believe I used it just underneath the neck, just to add a bit more definition. And same with the armpits. Here I'm starting to add some more muscle detail to the shoulders. I'm using symmetry now, so it's making it easier. I believed I used the move tool again on the elbow. So here I'm just joining up all my new sculpting. I'm adding more definition where muscle would be showing. Now I'm working on the fingers. I originally did it with a thicker brush, and then I think I go back over it and do it with a thinner one, which should help to give it more definition. With the fingernails, I think next time I'd probably, rather than pushing in, I'd make it so the nails come out, because looking at human nails, they're not in your fingers, they come out of your fingers. Just adding a bit more detail there to the palm of the hand. And I think you'll see in a second, I actually put the thumb on the wrong side, but I do go and correct that in a second. I'm just using the mask tool again just to cover up the knuckle. Now I'm going in with the legs. I'm trying to add some definition and trying to sculpt it a bit more because I wasn't really happy with how it looked in Maya. So I was hoping that in ZBrush I'd be able to add some more detail and shape it a bit more. And it slowly starts to look better. It looks less knobbly, which is what my issue was in Maya. Now I'm just going in with the move tool and trying to make it less obvious that I've pushed in to the model. Now I'm just trying to add some more definition to the feet. I didn't really add too much in Maya, which I'm not very happy with. I wish I'd added more and made it a bit more obvious that it's a foot. It doesn't really give the foot vibes, but I'm trying to use the clay tubes just to add some more definition. I go along and use the move tool at some point with the foot just to add its make it a bit smaller. Now I'm going in with the eyes and I'm just trying to sculpt out where the eyeball socket is. I went with more of like I didn't go for a stereotypical shape, human shape, I should say, because it's an alien, so I wanted it to have a more alien vibe to it. Now I'm going in with the jaw and just trying to add some more definition, connect it all up. There's the mouth area, and I'll be using the mask tool, and then I will use the move tool again just to push in to get a nice jawline. Now I wanted to have some definition for the head, but it not be take away from the main thing. So I just used the clay tubes and just did a simple light one with my Wacom pad. Now I'm going in with the smooth tool, starting with the chest, using the mask tool just to mark out every muscle so that I don't smooth too much. Then I'm going back over it with clay just to build it back up again because the smooth tool dials it down. Now going in with the rib cage, just adding a bit more definition to it with the down tool. Here I focus more on the back. After I've done the shoulders, there's a part of the back that I just really struggled with getting smooth. This bit here, once I'd smoothed it, it just looked very blocky. So I was going over it multiple times trying to build it up till it looked a bit more natural. As you can see, I kept trying. Now I move on to the hips, building it back up just so it's got some definition to it. And then I masked the hips as well, just so it was further out, so that it didn't all look, symmetrical and flat. So I'm going back in with that back because I just wasn't happy with it. There I did a little bit in the middle, which made it a bit more realistic, I think. So now firstly on the arms. And I'm slowly making my way down and smoothing out the entire body, adding more clay to where the muscles would be, just to thicken them up and really make them visible. Now I'm working on the hands, trying to smooth out the knuckles and the fingernails. Now I'm just focusing on the collarbone, clay, using the mask tool just to mask out everything else, just so nothing gets affected by it. Now working on the back of the neck, top of the shoulders. Just, yeah, marking it all out. Now onto the legs. I was hoping that it would hide some of the knobbliness, and I think it did. It's got the knobbliness of the knee, which I quite like because it's an alien. It wouldn't have too many human characteristics. Now I'm just smoothing out the rear. Here I had an issue. I had this hole which kept appearing, and I wasn't sure how to fix it. I assume I must have pushed in at some point while sculpting and just didn't notice it. But it was quite annoying when I came to smoothing and I couldn't figure out a way to stop it, unfortunately, without putting circles over it with it looking a bit weird. So here, as I spoke earlier about the move tool, I was just moving the foot, trying to make it a little bit less blocky, which I think it did achieve. I did achieve it, and now I'm going along adding toenails. But again, I wish I'd pushed out rather than gone into the mesh. So now I've finished sculpting. I'm moved on to making the eyeball. So we started with just a sphere, and then we cut it in half, and then started angling the eyelids. I was just trying to get that eyelid to match the shape that I'd made for the eye socket. So I was using another move tool just to help slightly move little edges within the sphere. So now I'm just smoothing out the last bit of the head and adding a little bit more definition to the face after it has been smoothed. So I just added a few eyebrow shapes. I went with this forehead bit, and then I was like, I wasn't sure whether I liked it or not, so I decided I just wouldn't add it. Now I don't know what happened to my mask tool there, but I couldn't just paint a mask, so I was having to do blocks of areas. But there's my finished alien. Now I went back into Maya and I did a low poly. I did retopology, and this is the finished one. I know there are a few triangles on the face and the back of the head, but I just couldn't figure out a way to do it without some appearing. The leg was one of the hardest parts. I think that was because of the shape of it, because of the knobbliness. But and as you can see on the foot there, it like dips quite a bit. But overall, I am happy with the retopology. And then this is the finished one once I mirrored it across, just because my symmetry wasn't working in Maya, so I couldn't do both sides at once, unfortunately. And here is the UV for it, which I'm really happy with. And this is the final smooth version of the retopology. So then I went into Substance and I started to texture the alien. This is the finished version, and this is the subdominant eyes. I use multiple layers to get detail of the muscle and what happens underneath the skin. So I started with a base color and then added a lighter red, then went into it with a lighter color just to show off some more definition. In this layer, I used a brush tool and I highlighted some muscles just to add some more definition and show it a bit better. Then this layer, I went in and showed some bone. However, you can't really see it too much. I think if I was to redo it, I'd maybe change the color because I don't think the color blends very well with the reds. So then I added the epidermis level and I added the base skin tone, which is that blue, and you can see a slight muscle coming through. So then I went in and added some detailing of what might be on the skin of the alien. So a few dots, there are some veins going through the body, and then these just show where blood is most likely to gather, so on the feet. After the alien had been textured, I went into Mixamo and started to set it up. I did an auto rigger, which was very useful, nice and simple, and didn't take too long. And I picked out 3 animations. I picked out a running, a walking, and an idle. Next, I went into Unreal Engine. I imported my base mesh and also my textures. I set them up for the alien. Then I had to go in and add the speed. I just had to join up some blueprints so that when the player increases their speed, the character does as well. Then I went into the third person blueprint and added the sprint before going into the settings and adding a sprint button for the player to use. And here is my final alien textured and idle in Unreal. And here is it walking. And here is it running.